I'd been a cop for 26 years, 22 of them as a detective, and the last 12 running the gang intelligence unit out of the 77th precinct. People outside the job think gang unit means kicking doors and flashing badges on the 10 o'clock news. The truth is quieter and dirtier. It's 14-hour wiretap shifts in a van that smells like old burritos and desperation. It's cultivating informants who will sell their own mothers for a reduced sentence and still lie to your face. It's knowing which corner stores the Lucy's laced with fentanyl and which grandmother on the 3rd floor is holding the stash house keys because nobody ever pats down an 80-year-old woman in a housecoat. I kept 3 separate notebooks. One for names, one for phones, one for lies people told me that later turned out to be true. My closure rate on gang-related homicides sat at 89%, highest in the city for a decade straight. The feds asked me to teach at Quantico twice. Both times I told them I was too busy keeping my own streets from catching fire. Then Chief Evelyn Hargrove arrived. She came in on a Tuesday in March, heels clicking across the roll call room like a metronome counting down to our funeral. 42 years old, J.D. from Yale. Former deputy commissioner of something nobody had ever heard of in a department 2 states away that had half our murder rate and twice our budget. The mayor introduced her as a fresh set of eyes and a commitment to 21st century policing. Translation: she'd never smelled cordite or watched a 16-year-old bleed out on a sidewalk while his mother screamed at God in Spanish. She wasted no time. First roll call under her command, she stood at the podium in a navy suit that probably cost more than my monthly pension will ever be and told us we were over-reliant on antiquated enforcement models. Then she rolled out the Hargrove Reform Initiative like it was the iPhone 16. Effective immediately, the Gang Intelligence Unit would be downsized from 14 detectives to 4, plus 1 civilian data analyst who still used the phrase, Orban youth, without irony. Undercover narcotics buys were suspended because they perpetuate racial disparities in arrests. Our confidential informant fund, money that had bought us the locations of 3 different cartel stash houses in the last 18 months, was slashed per page and redirected to something called the Community Trust Ambassador Program. Translation: kids in neon vests, handing out flyers about conflict resolution while the shooters reloaded. She saved the best for me personally. I was summoned to the 5th floor conference room that still smelled like the old chief's cigars. Hargrove sat at the head of the table flanked by 2 deputy commissioners who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. She didn't offer me a seat. Detective Sergeant Harlan. She began reading my name off a printout like she wasn't sure it was actually mine. Your unit's overtime budget is obscene. You personally billed the city for 237 hours last quarter. Ma'am, that's because the Reyes cartel was moving 10 kilos a week through the port and we stopped them. Your methods are aggressive. We're moving toward a guardian mindset. Starting next month, you'll transition to a training coordinator role. You'll mentor the new cohort of officers, 90% of whom, I'm proud to say, are under 30 and reflect the community they serve. I laughed, couldn't help it. The sound came out rough, like gravel in my throat. Chief, with respect, the community I serve is currently trying to kill each other, with converted Glocks and armor piercing rounds. They need guardians about as much as they need a PowerPoint presentation. Her smile was thin and sharp. That attitude, Sergeant, is exactly why change is necessary. You'll surrender your case files and your informants to Detective Alvarez. She's 28, fluent in 3 dialects of Spanish, and has a master's in social work. She'll be taking point on gang intelligence. Alvarez was a good kid. Smart, eager, still thought the job could be fair. I'd watched her freeze during her first buy walk last year when the dealer put a gun to her temple and made her count the money out loud. She got through it, but I was the one who talked her down afterward. while she puked in the alley behind the bodega. Now they wanted her to run my unit, with 3 other rookies and a budget that wouldn't buy coffee for a week of surveillance. I went back downstairs and started drinking the precinct coffee that tasted like burnt plastic. My phone buzzed with texts from the few informants I still trusted. They killed Lil Man last night. Execution style behind the laundro. Matt. Rise just put a green light out on anyone talking to 5. Oh. Nobody's seen Flacco in 2 days and his baby mama crying on the news. I knew what was coming. I'd seen it before. Twice in the 90s and again in 2011 when the city decided gangs were a thing of the past. You pull back the pressure. The animals smell blood. They test boundaries. A shooting becomes 2. 2 becomes open war. And when the bodies stack high enough that even the mayor can't ignore them anymore, they call the old dogs back out of retirement and beg us to clean up the mess. Hargrove scheduled a press conference for Friday to announce the historic restructuring. She wanted me there in dress uniform, standing behind her like a prop, to prove she wasn't afraid of the old guard. I considered not showing up, considered putting in my papers and walking away with whatever was left of my sanity. 26 years. I had the time, the rank, the pension. I could go sit on a pier in Florida and pretend I didn't hear sirens in my dreams anymore. But I kept thinking about the kid on the west side who used to wave at my unmarked Crown Vic every morning when I dropped my own daughter at school. He was 14 now, prime recruitment age for the set that ran his block. Without eyes on the street, without someone who knew which rumors were spoke and which were about to explode, that kid was going to end up with a Glock in his waistband and a target on his back before summer hit. So I put on the dress blues that didn't quite fit anymore and stood behind Hargrove while she told the cameras we were entering a new era of trust-based policing. She never once looked back at me. Probably didn't want to see what was written on my face. That night I sat in my car outside the precinct until 3 a.m., watching the city breathe. Somewhere out there, the Reyes cartel was unloading shipping containers full of product our port unit no longer had funding to surveil. Somewhere out there, a 15-year-old was getting jumped into a set that would own him until he was dead or in prison. Somewhere out there, the match was already lit. I just didn't know yet how big the fire was going to be. 3 weeks later I knew exactly. It started small, the way these things always do. A couple of corner beefs that you get squashed with one phone call from me now went unanswered, because the new community trust ambassadors were still in week 2 of their de-escalation training and didn't know Lil Saint from Lil Reese. Then, the first body dropped. A 17-year-old honor roll kid caught in the middle of a dice game that turned into a drive-by because nobody was watching the block anymore. Hargrove held another press conference, blamed lingering toxic masculinity from the previous administration, and promised more ambassadors. I tried to warn them. Sent a 9-page memo up the chain laying out the exact escalation pattern I'd seen in 98 and again in 11. Names, corners, beefs older than most of the new detectives. I even attached the burner numbers that were already lighting up with hits. The memo came back with a sticky note in Hargrove's perfect handwriting. Please refrain from fear-mongering. Focus on your transition duties. That was the day I stopped trying. I walked into her office at 0800s on a Monday, dropped my shield and my duty weapon on her desk, and told her I was taking terminal leave effective immediately. 26 years, 3 commendations for bravery, 2 mayor's awards, and I was done. She looked almost relieved. Sergeant Harlan, this kind of dramatic exit is exactly why we need new blood. Ma'am, the blood's about to be on the pavement. You just made sure nobody's there to mop it up. Security escorted me out like I was a civilian. I didn't fight it. I signed the paperwork, turned in my raid jacket, and walked out past the roll call room where Alvarez was trying to explain to 4 brand New detectives how to read a gang ledger, using only open source Instagram posts. She looked up when I passed, eyes wide, mouth half open like she wanted to say something. I just gave her the smallest shake of my head. Some lessons you can't teach. You have to watch people die for them. They replaced me with Captain Marcus Whitlock, 34 years old, former public information officer, masters in strategic communications, 0 felony arrests to his name. His first act as acting commander of what was left of the gang unit was to repaint the war room pastel blue because aggressive colors promote aggressive policing. His second act was to schedule a TikTok live at the worst corner in the division in They did it on a Friday night at 11 p.m. on 78th and Figueroa, right where the Rollin' 40s and the 43rd Street Hustlers share a border nobody had respected since I stopped enforcing it. I watched the whole thing from my couch with a beer I didn't taste. Whitlock stood there in a soft body vest 2 sizes too big, smiling like he was at a college career fair, while some kid in a ski mask danced behind him, throwing up gang signs for the camera. Chat was pure chaos fire, laughing emojis, people posting the exact time and location like it was a concert. At 11:17 p.m. the screen went black. Somebody started shooting. Not at the cops, at each other, right through the live feed. You could hear Whitlock screaming, "We're just here to talk," before someone yanked the phone out of his hand and the stream cut. By morning we had 6 dead, 11 wounded, and the mayor declaring a local state of emergency. Hargrove went on television pale as printer paper, and promised a full tactical response. She just didn't have anyone left who knew what that meant. The Reyes cartel chose that exact weekend to move their biggest shipment ever. 23 containers off a Panamanian freighter that used to get hit by our port task force twice a month. The port unit had been downsized to 1 sergeant and a part-time analyst who mostly processed parking tickets now. Customs waved the containers through because the paperwork was perfect and nobody was left who knew how to read between the lines on a bill of lading. 480 kilos of pure fentanyl, laced heroin hit the streets in 72 hours. Street price dropped so fast half the old school dealers started giving it away just to keep customers alive long enough to come back. Hospitals went into surge capacity by Tuesday. EMS ran out of Narcan on Wednesday. The coroner's vans worked double shifts and still couldn't keep up. Kids were dropping in high school bathrooms, in movie theaters, on the goddamn subway. 1 12-year-old girl OD'd in the middle of a Chuck E. Cheese birthday party while the animatronic band kept singing, "Happy Happy Birthday." Her mother had to be sedated in the parking lot. Meanwhile the gang war exploded exactly the way I said it would. The Reyes crew used the chaos to wipe out 2 rival cliques in one night. 23 dead in a series of executions that started at a baby shower in South Park and ended with a triple homicide in a church parking lot during Wednesday night Bible study. The shooters wore those neon vests from Hargrove's ambassador program. Took them right off the kids who'd been handing out flyers the week before. The irony was so thick you could choke on it. Whitlock tried to run a briefing on Thursday, and nobody showed up. Half his remaining detectives had transferred out. The other half were hiding in the property room pretending to catalog evidence. Hargrove finally activated the tactical platoon, except she'd cut their training budget too. So they rolled out with expired lethal rounds and rifles that hadn't been zeroed since the Obama administration. First call they got was an active shooter at Manual Arts High School, some 16-year-old who'd watched his little brother turn blue from bad dope, decided to take it out on the world. SWAT got there 48 minutes later because their armored Bearcat was in the shop. Budget shortfall, no parts. They went in with 2 unmarked sedans and whatever was in their trunks. The kid killed 3 teachers and 2 students before a school resource officer with a personally owned AR put him down. The officer got suspended the next day for unauthorized use of deadly force because Hargrove had outlawed patrol rifles the month before. By Friday the feds were in town whether we wanted them or not. DEA set up in the federal building and immediately asked for my old files. Hargrove told them everything, and digitized and archived, for transparency. Translation: Alvarez had spent 3 weeks scanning 20 years of handwritten notes into a system that redacted anything useful. The special agent in charge called me at home that night and basically begged me to come back as a consultant. I told him to talk to the chief. He said he tried. She told him my expertise was rooted in a punitive paradigm that no longer serves the community. Saturday morning the city looked like a war zone. National Guard rolled in, because we literally didn't have enough bodies to cover calls. Every news channel had the same helicopter shot, 3 square miles of South Central on fire, literal fire, because looters torched a strip mall, when the police stopped responding to anything that wasn't a mass casualty event. The 9/11 system crashed twice from overload. People were tweeting their own addresses with, "Please send help." And nobody came. I sat on my porch drinking coffee that had gone cold hours ago and watched the smoke rise in the distance. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Old informants, retired partners, even a couple judges asking if I could do something, anything. One text just said, "They're saying your name on the block again, OG, like you the only one who ever kept it from burning." Sunday night the mayor finally ate shit on live television and announced that Chief Hargrove had stepped down to pursue other opportunities. They reinstated me at my old rank +1, emergency powers, whatever I needed. The press release called it a return to proven leadership during this difficult time. I stood in the parking lot of the 77th at 400 Monday morning in jeans and an old raid jacket, watching the few detectives who hadn't quit yet straggle in like shocked soldiers. Alvarez was crying so hard she could barely salute. Whitlock was nowhere to be seen. Turned out he'd taken stress leave the day before and was already interviewing for a podcast about police reform. I looked at the burnt out shell of what used to be my city and felt something settle in my chest like a stone. The fire was here now, and somebody had to put it out.